Could you give a word of advice to students who may face similar discrimination within the sporting community?
The important one is not to let a small minority of people try to suffocate your potential and the skills that you have and the passion that you have for whatever sport that you play in, not necessarily just football, but if there's another sport that you're passionate about, that you're good at and that you want to keep doing, don't let a small minority of people take that away from you.
We really want to get guys like yourself, students like yourselves, that are willing to put yourselves out there and speak up. We've got to have people that will come forward to help us with this movement, to give confidence to other people. We want them to follow a positive and inclusive environment, not a path that is discriminatory and prevents other people from, being involved in activities or being involved in football or sport in general.
So could you just explain a little bit about Rainbow Blades and what it is?
Yeah, so Rainbow Blades is Sheffield United's official and affiliated LGBT plus and ally supporters group. I set it up back in April of last year, just as we were all were in lockdown, and it's been going ever since. So we're fast approaching our first birthday, and it's a supporters group that's open to basically any Sheffield United supporter, whether that's an ally of the LGBT plus community or it's a blade that identifies as LGBT plus.
What was the motivation, or what is the motivation behind the Empower LGBT plus project?
For us, it was really important of, what is happening in our city, what's happening in Sheffield to address the inequalities around LGBT people, and what are we doing to provide sport and physical activity opportunities specifically for LGBT young people. And it was shocking because no one had an answer. There was no data to show the physical activity levels of LGBT plus people. There was no specific data for Sheffield around the number of LGBT people. You've got the general consensus from 10 years ago, but that's 10 years ago. We're in 2021 now. And as a city, we should be questioning ourselves. And kind of that motivated me and drove to think, right, there's something we can do here. We have an opportunity to really make a change. And that's how the project came about. We were chatting about the Pride conference that she'd been to and the kind of inequalities that LGBT communities face, the lack of physical activity opportunities, the high levels of obesity, mental health concerns, everything that we talk about other underrepresented groups, but why are we not particularly supporting LGBT people, and particularly challenging discrimination and inequality? What can we do? For me, it was quite simple. An underrepresented group, a group that doesn't have the same opportunities as others, how can we help them get more physically active? As part of my role as participation and inclusion manager, I kind of work on a specific aim to provide opportunities for everyone to participate in physical activity and sport. It always stemmed out of how can we support underrepresented groups that are not having the same opportunities as other people to be physically active and to create safer, stronger, and more inclusive communities. And everything that I do in terms of my work is driven towards that aim. We had some great discussions with one of our key partners, which is Say It. So the LGBT plus charity for young people in Sheffield. They're fantastic. They've done some training for us. But you'll have heard me speak. It's for the city. This is not for Sheffield United on its own. This is for our community, our city.
Sheffield Rainbow Laces are it's quite prominent. Could you just explain a little bit around that as well?
Yeah, so I started Sheffield Rainbow Laces actually before Rainbow Blades. Obviously, I didn't start Rainbow Laces. That's a campaign, a national campaign by Stonewall. But we use that campaign in Sheffield to run community football events. So we hold the Sheffield Rainbow Laces five-a-side tournament, which is open to everyone, whether you identify as LGBT plus or not. Any gender, any skill set in terms of if you're an amateur footballer or a novice footballer, It really does not matter. It's all about taking part, and it's all about inclusion and awareness around LGBT plus in sport and in football. We also hold the 11-a-side cup match as well. This one is just a male match, and the reason we do that is because we're highlighting the systematic and real deep problems of LGBT plus phobia that still exists very, very much in the male game. And also we're adding, hopefully this year, but if not this year, then next year, a third community event, which will be our youth festival, which will include young people from ages 16 up to 25 around a youth football tournament to get the younger people involved.
Football and sometimes sport isn't and hasn't been the most welcoming place for individuals who aren't white cisgendered males. What do you hope the LGBT plus project will achieve?
You know, ideally, we want to work towards creating an inclusive environment at Sheffield United so that everybody can come to the game, everybody can feel welcome, everybody can feel a part of the Sheffield United family. In the beginning, we're not going to change the world. I know that, but we can start and we can plant the seed to help it grow. You know, I'm not expecting us to change the world in the first 12 months, but what I do want us to do is help educate, help create more allies to champion LGBT equality, so that in the future, people can feel comfortable going and supporting the football club that they've probably supported most of their lives, but they can actually go to the ground and feel happy and comfortable there. And that's where Rainbow Blades, you know, are really powerful in terms of helping us on that journey for LGBT communities, because there is a safe place at Sheffield United for them to go. You know, football is a great way of bringing people together, but when we say people, we should mean everybody. And that's what I want to achieve. You know, we have specific aims around addressing physical activity opportunities, and that's kind of where we're focused on, is, you know, because physical activity is a great way of improving physical well-being, mental well-being, you know, social well-being, all those key things. But, you know, the wider impact is how can we create a safer and more inclusive community for everybody.
What is that one thing that you hope one day you might achieve?
That Rainbow Blades doesn't exist anymore, because we don't need to exist, because there is no discrimination in football or in sport of any form. I'm not just talking about homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia. I'm talking about racism as well. You know, we want to get to a point where everyone, absolutely everyone, can go and watch a football match without any fear of discrimination.
So what was your reason for starting both Rainbow Blades and Sheffield Rainbow Laces?
The main reason for starting Sheffield Rainbow Laces, well, there was two reasons actually. The first one was it just dawned on me during the World Cup, which was a couple of years ago now. It was in 2018, I think the World Cup was, when we got to the semi-finals. And I already knew that football was a powerful vehicle for change and for raising awareness around certain issues. And just the way that everyone got behind the World Cup, and, you know, just the enthusiasm and drive that it had. And then coupled with that, I've got three godkids, and I had suffered not direct homophobia, but indirect homophobia at a football match a few years ago now, probably 3 years ago now. And I was thinking, I don't want my three godchildren to have to experience any type of discrimination if they choose to go and watch a football match, whether it's at Bramall Lane or whether it's at another football stadium. I don't want them to experience any type of discrimination, any homophobia, biphobia, transphobia. So I want to do something about it in the community in Sheffield. Rainbow Laces is a great campaign. However, it only really gets any type of highlight for about 2 to 3 weeks of the year when it is their activation period. So that's normally the end of November, beginning of December. Apart from that, you don't really hear much about rainbow laces. It exists, and people still put on events and wear rainbow laces and what have you, but it doesn't get that kind of reach and publicity as it does for that kind of strict 2 to 3 week period towards the end of each year. So that's another reason why we were using that particular campaign, so we could space these community events out across the year and keep that rainbow laces conversation and campaign going and in people's minds. And in terms of rainbow blades, very much similar reasons. I'm a Sheffield United supporter, an openly gay man, and I had noticed that there wasn't an active LGBT plus and ally supporters group at Sheffield United. And when I looked at the list in terms of other LGBT plus and ally supporter groups in football clubs up and down the country, there was over 50. And I was like, well, something not right here. I think Sheffield United needs one. And they'd gain from it, and our supporters would gain from it as well. So that's kind of one of the main reasons that I set Rainbow Blades up with the club. It is fan-led. The committee and our members do lead it, but we are affiliated with the club, and the club offers massive support to our group and vice versa. But yeah, that's kind of the main reason why Rainbow Blades was set up, because there wasn't really an active LGBT plus and ally supporters group to start with.
You briefly talked about this, about discrimination and being a woman in the community. How did you overcome this?
For me, when I first started playing football, I was 7 years old. I was at school, and just playing football in the playground like most kids do. And I was told that I couldn't play football because I was a girl. And kids in the playground, they laugh and joke, and they don't really understand what that means. But we should be educating them to understand. Those words hurt. And so, growing up, it was always the case. I always played for a boys' team until I could. Loved playing with the boys. Always fought against the comments. We have to challenge it. We have to keep going. And that's what motivates me. Because like I said earlier, no one should ever be told they can't do something just because of who they are.
So, of course, you briefly talked about your own personal experience with discrimination. Could you give a word of advice to students who may face similar discrimination within the sporting community?
Yes, I've got a few bits of advice, I guess. So the first one would be, and the most important one, is not to let a small minority of people try to suffocate your potential and the skills that you have and the passion that you have for whatever sport that you play in, not necessarily just football, but if there's another sport that you're passionate about, that you're good at and that you want to keep doing, don't let a small minority of people take that away from you. I'd also definitely recommend that you report it. And then finally, it's about awareness and education. Whether you think it is the right time, space, and if you have the confidence to educate said person that has discriminated you because of the way you are, then fine, you can do that, obviously in the correct way. Because sometimes, from my experience, it's not always the fact that people know that it is going to be 100% hurtful to that individual. It sometimes is purely because they haven't been educated in LGBT plus language, awareness, what words do hurt us, what words are used to put us down.
What is your proudest Rainbow Blade achievement? Obviously, it's only been a year, but what over this year have you been really proud to achieve?
Yeah, I've got a few actually. Like you say, we're only just coming up to our first birthday, but I guess as an umbrella of proudness, I'm proud of everything we've achieved and what we've achieved in such a small amount of time. We've got over 200 members part of Rainbow Blades, which is more than any of us expected in our first year. I think when I sat down with the club back at the start of 2020, we were saying, well, let's see how we go. Let's try and get to 50 members to start with. That would be a good shout if you tried to get to 50 members. And yeah, as I checked today actually before I spoke to you, and we're on 214 members, which is just incredible. New members keep joining all the time. Obviously, we have kind of spikes of membership when certain campaigns run. So when the Rainbow Laces campaign ran at the end of last year, we did see a big spike in our membership. But that is a real proud moment and a proud achievement of mine, of the committees and of the fan group in general, that we now have over 200 members who are a mix of members. Some identify as LGBT plus and some are allies of our community. And just kind of linking in with that, another thing that makes me really proud is bringing these supporters together during a pandemic, a global pandemic, you know, where, okay, football is back at the moment, behind closed doors, but it is back. But there was a time last year where there was no football at all, and people have such a strong affiliation and connection with football. It is part of people's lives. It is part of our community, as in the city community, and it helps people's mental health. You know, they look forward to going to watch their football team every weekend or weeknight. You know, seeing friends, going to the pub, or whatever their pre-match rituals may be, and all that had disappeared. So the fact that we connect with over 200 members, and we have pre-match socials that we run an hour before each kickoff. So, for example, this Sunday we take on Chelsea at, I think it's 8:15 in the evening. So between 6 p.m. and between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. we are running a virtual pre-match social on Zoom, which is open to all our members and also open to Chelsea Football Club's LGBT plus and ally supporter group. They're called Chelsea Pride. So each set of supporters come together virtually on Zoom an hour before kickoff, where it fills that gap that they used to have when we were back in a non-COVID world. And, you know, we get to talk about football, but we also get to talk about other things that aren't just football. We can talk about what we've been up to that day, that week. We talk about TV shows. So in the last pre-match social, we massively spoke about It's a Sin for a very long time, which was great. So the final thing would be the Rainbow Laces campaign that Rainbow Blades and Sheffield United ran at the end of last year. I got quite a lump in my throat when I watched the build-up to our Rainbow Laces match. All the flags flying above Bramall Lane had changed to LGBT plus flags, and not just the rainbow one, but the trans flag, the bi flag, the pansexual flag, the asexual flag. All the players wore Rainbow Blades tops as they were warming up before kickoff. So I got quite a lump in my throat watching that, because that was such a big achievement of our group and of the club to do that, and how visible it was to Blades all around the world.
Despite discrimination within the community, moving forward from that, how would you encourage students to join sporting societies at uni?
Like I say, sport is a great way of bringing people together. So that's get involved. If you can make a difference, if you believe you can make a difference, which everybody can, by the way, then get involved. You can join at many different levels. You can be playing, you can be volunteering, you can be coaching, you can just be a spectator. It's fun for most. You know, some people don't find it fun, and that's fine. You know, you can find other routes into enjoying sports activity. You know, not everyone enjoys sport. I think that's important. It's being physically active and being moving and leading a healthy lifestyle is important. You know, it doesn't have to be done through sport. You know, we really want to get guys like yourself, students like yourselves, you know, that are willing to put yourselves out there and speak up. And that's what I was just saying, you know, we've got to have people that will come forward to help us with this movement, to give confidence to other people. You know, some people are leaders, some people are followers, and that's fine, but it's what we want them to follow. We want them to follow a positive and inclusive environment, not a path that is discriminatory and prevents other people from, you know, being involved in activities or being involved in football or sport in general. You know, even if you're spectating and watching, you know, your friends on the sideline, if you hear something, challenge it. If you see something, report it. Create that environment that you want people to grow up in, to be involved in. If you're playing sport, do the same thing. You know, if you've got somebody on your team that makes a comment or uses language that's discriminatory, challenge it, because that's the only way we're going to be able to address it.
How would you encourage students to join sporting societies at university, specifically those who are scared to join but are worried about discrimination?
I think I try and put myself back into, because obviously I was a student at Sheffield Hallam University, and I try and put myself back into student shoes, even though it seems a long time ago now, sadly. How I would approach this, I would probably go and speak firstly to my student union representative in sport, and also talk to the chairperson or captain or whatever title they have at said sports society, whether it's the football society or the netball or the hockey or whatever it may be. Go and speak to the person in charge, a student who is the captain or chairperson or whatever, just to let them know and just to ask them, look, I'm really, really interested in football. I'm good at football. I'm passionate about it. It helps my mental health. It's good for physical exercise, and so on and so forth. I want to join, but I'm nervous about X, Y, and Z because of my sexuality or sexual orientation. So that's kind of the first step that I would do if I was back in that position. Instead of maybe diving straight in and not fully knowing, I'd maybe speak to the sports officer or the chairperson or captain of that particular sports society. But ultimately, I would, any student at all that has an interest in sport and wants to get involved in sport, I would 100% encourage all day long, because I've seen firsthand the effects it has on young people's mental health, their physical activity, their physical health. You know, I've seen what difference it makes, and what difference not only does it make to the student, but what difference and impact it will make onto your teammates in that particular sports society. If there are any students at Sheffield Hallam University that's interested in Sheffield Rainbow Laces, or are a Sheffield United fan and would like to be part of the Rainbow Blades supporters group, then we're always welcoming new members, and you'll be able to find the details on how to join through our social media channels and through our website as well. It's very easy to find Rainbow Blades on social media.
So, you know, through this project, we just can't wait to get going. You know, we're really thankful to the Premier League and the Professional Football Association for the opportunity with the funding that they provided. We've just recruited our coordinator, who will be starting in 2 weeks. We're just ready to get going now and make a difference. And even with this pandemic, you know, we can all do something. We can all speak up. We can all have a conversation, and we can all challenge it. And that's what I'd probably end on is, let's challenge this negative attitude, this environment that is so against someone being their authentic self. No, be your authentic self, be proud, and let's do it for everybody, so we can create a world that is just such a much better place to live.